Good afternoon. The purpose of this video is to showcase the excessive use of silicone and caulk and other tube-applied sealants in complete excess of manufacturer's recommendation. So along the sides of the building, they just filled it. Instead of cutting into the siding and mounting it flush to the house, they just put an incredibly huge wad of sealer up the entire building. And as I mentioned before, also along the seam of the roof. Now, in addition to all of that, they also did it to the inside of the corners. Now, where it gets extra fun is when you look around the windows. This window is decent. There's no silicone. It looks nice. They used the right window. Great. You go to the front windows. They used a different style window that was different than the other. And to make up for that mistake, they pumped it full of silicone in far excess of the manufacturer's recommendation for the sealer. This sealer is going to shrink and fall out incredibly soon. It's already fallen out of the roof, and it's already starting to separate in places throughout the building. This little fix, they decided to chip the window, fill it in with one color caulk, paint it, but not even paint the whole thing, but yet manage to paint extra up there. So if you continue the sealant in the center beam, I understand there can be spaces between center beams, but this center beam right here, that is not transferring load down. There's a 2-inch gap. That is completely unacceptable. You look around, the other window is exactly the same. Once again, just completely filled with all sorts of sealer, which is going to be popping out, and just leave a complete mess. Yeah, some more missing paint, even though they got some all over the frame of the window. All right, we will continue on to the outside of the building. When you get to the outside of the building, sorry for the height difference, this is a bit over my head. So when you look around the windows, you can see completely excessive silicone because of how they cut the polycarbonate. You can see the polycarbonate bowing right here because they cut it wrong and screwed it in wrong. And they just filled it in with the sealant the whole way. But what's even worse is they cut that side a little on the long side, and you come to the other side, and look at that gap. That is an inch wide plus gap up the entire window because they cut the poly short. It's not even on the beam in parts, and they just completely filled it with silicone. Not what it's designed to do. The other window, once again, poly was cut drastically short, and they just filled it in. Completely not acceptable. Go to the other side, completely just filled in. Now, when you go back, you can see to make up for the bow in the top truss, instead of cutting a new piece of poly to cover the gap, they just completely filled it with 2 inches of silicone, which is wildly above the manufacturer's, and it's going to shrink and fall out and leak. The level of craftsmanship with this is horrendous. Instead of fixing mistakes made, they just filled it with sealer, hoping that I would accept it. I am not going to accept this level of craftsmanship. This is not a $2,000 building. This is a $20,000 building that was built by professionals claiming 30 years experience. This is not the experience you get with 30 years of construction experience. This is not the level you build with 3 years of construction experience. This is amateur at best, the way this was assembled.